when we were going to go to Africa, and Grandpa thought we should fly. I told you that, and they said you can't fly to Africa. No way. Anyway, halfway across the ocean, we woke up one morning, and it was 21 days in the water, like a cruise. I said the best cruise you could have. Anyway, and so one of the sailors came up to somebody else and said, "Did you feel a bump last night?" And he said, "What bump? What are you talking about?" He said, "Oh, we crossed the divide."
Equator?
Yeah, the equator. And you sometimes feel the bump, he said. There's another word for it that's a little bit more exact, but I can't think of it right now. But that was fun. And then I think when we pulled in, I got the picture there with Jan in the little stroller. But we were so excited to see. We hadn't seen land, but one time we stopped at Walvis Bay to unload something, and then we went on, and we hadn't seen land for 20 days. And then all of a sudden, here was Cape Town, and the table land, it was flat on the top. Well, I think very interesting, because Mr. Tourism told me that he said if you go around the world, there are places that are flat. He said, I think it has to do with the flood, because these places are almost all, no matter whether it's in Europe or Africa or where, they're about the same height. So the whole world was probably flooded. I mean, it was his reaction to it. I never thought of that, And so then, of course, we were met by people from the school and drove out to the school. And it was fun. The picture in the bedroom there is a little bit similar to, as you see, you can almost see Helderberg in the distance. It's not true, but it looks that way. And Jan used to love it when she was tiny, and we'd take her down to the ocean, and she'd play in the sand, and it was lovely. It reminds me of the time when I went out to California, and June Wilson was out there. She was my roommate, and we went to the ocean. And I said, I got a mouthful, and I said, "It's salty." And it's the first I'd known that the ocean was salty, when I got a taste of it, And so that's true down there too. Well, so of course we were 4 years at Helderberg, and then we went up country, but with a couple other kids. But it was interesting. And then we stopped at the falls, Rhodesian, and that was we took a boat ride up above the falls, and that was interesting. And you could see some animals in the area. They were not wild, vicious, but they were wild animals. And I don't remember why we started talking to some white people who were native of the country, and then we went walking with them a little bit, and it just gave you a different picture of the country when you saw the people, But then when we got to that was we were driving then. We had gone up by boat one year. Lowell was a baby, and we left him with some friends. And we went by train from Cape Town up to the Congo. We thought we would never see Africa. We didn't do that. So we did that. So we got up there and then turned around and came back. And that's when we were in the Congo and started on the train to go back to Cape Town. and somebody gave us some pineapple. I mentioned, did I tell you? Anyway, we got this, he gave us some pineapple, we cut it in the booth in the train as we were going along, and the juice of the pineapple just ran down onto the floor. It was so sweet and the best pineapple I ever had in my life. Seems like now, you know. But they had grown them there, and we didn't grow pineapple at Getaway like that. Anyway, we went back for one more year, and Leona was born then, after that. And then they called us to go up to the Congo and work, or Rwanda to work. And I thought, this is fun. It was seeing something you'd never seen before. You just did it on your own. And so we got up there, and I'll have to tell you the story about Lowell. When he was about 4 years old, we were still at Getaway, and somebody gave Dad a rooster, and he brought it home just because they gave it to him. And the rooster flew up, landed on top of we had a great big tank that the rainwater came in, and that's with our supply of wash water and everything. Not drinking. We had people bring water from a well for drinking, and the church paid to hire somebody to go and get us water. But anyway, the rooster was up there, and Lowell went out, and he said, you come down. And he said, because I'm going to your house today. And of course the rooster didn't, but anyway, he had a good time. He loved playing with the African children. And one day, well, it was before we went on furlough. When we went on furlough, I got a lawnmower. I got tired of the people doing like this to mow the lawn, because it didn't really do any good. Didn't seem to me. Anyway, so I thought, well, why don't we get some cows to come in and eat this grass off? So we did. And of course, you know, my Lowell, he had to go out and chase the cows. So he did. And I looked out the front door of the house, and there's Lowell out there in front of the cow. And I don't know what the beginning was, but all of a sudden I looked, and here the cow had booted Lowell about 20 feet. And he came out laughing. That was fun. He always had fun. Anyway, so life is interesting. But we caught our rainwater, and that's what we bathed with and everything. But drinking, we got the water from the well. But and if Dad went out speaking to a church out on the hillside, we would go with him. One day, Leona was a little tiny baby in my arms, and I had a bonnet on her, and I thought, she won't get sunburned. She got the bonnet on, but she went to sleep in my arms. I didn't notice until the next day that she had little blisters on her cheeks from the sun, because the bonnet was behind and didn't keep her face covered. Oh dear. And of course the Africans didn't have to worry. They didn't burn like a white. And of course Dad was a little bit redhead, so he burned easily. Anyway, but it was a fun thing. I remember once, we had a car then, and we drove up to, Dad drove up to another mission. It wasn't an Adventist mission. I don't know why, but anyway, on the way, the car stopped, and somebody stopped behind us, and him. I think I was there, but I'm not absolutely sure. Anyway, he said, well, I don't know, the car stopped. I don't know why it stopped. And he wasn't any mechanic of any kind at all. And so he, this other car drove up behind us, and they said, what's the matter? And Dad said, I don't know. He said, well, your car is just like mine. We're both Peugeots. Anyway, it started again and we went up to the other hospital and stopped there. But the other thing was we weren't, well, we were quite a bit of driving, but we weren't so far across the hill from the hospital. Roncarry, I want to say, but I don't think that's right. Anyway, we were too far from there, and the doctor over there, Dr. Newbold, was over there, and he loved to walk. So he walked over the hills, got blisters on his feet because he walked over the hills. But if you went the other way, you had to go over, because you'd have to go over the streams, and I would get out and tell Dad where to drive, because these are just planks across, and I would tell him where to put the wheel so it wouldn't go down in the in between the planks. But that was fun. I went with him when it was possible, but I didn't go very often. And Isabel Newbold, Dr. Newbold's wife, had been a year ahead of me at nursing, so I knew her. And they used to come and see us, and we see them. They had 5 or 6 kids too. So I think they're both gone now. But it was fun to see. And then I think one of my big impressions is Sabbath morning, when we would get out and they would be coming up the hill, and the women always wore pastel colors and long, big skirts, and they were barefooted, but they'd carry their shoes. After all, you had to honor God by putting your shoes on when you got to the door. And so they would carry their shoes, and the path was around. You could see them, a long path of people coming up to church. And we had no music except their singing. And there was a stump of a tree over here and a stump over here. I mean, they'd carry them in and put them there, and put boards across. And I said, you never think of a church as being full, because they would come in and sit down, and if somebody else came, they would sit on the end of the tree, and then everybody moved over. So they was never full. You could always get more people in. Anyway, but when the twins were little, I would put them to bed when church started, and I'd go up to church, and then if I heard them cry, I could hear them from the church. But that was fun. I remember Maxie came up once. I was helping Dad in the office with the bookkeeping, and he came up to the office, Dad's office, and he cried all the way up to the door. And when he got up there, I held him a minute, and he stopped crying. Then Dad and I were ready to leave, so we had him between us. And he looked up and he said, "What do mommies and daddies do when they get hurt?" That makes sense to you? Yeah, because he had to come up all the way crying. So, one other time, we had the first mission house was where the president of the union stayed, and anyway, they took it. The government, the Belgian government officers came in, took over that house because there was war in the area a little bit, and so we weren't paying much attention. But one day, Dad said, "I wonder why they're," and it was something, and so he went down the hill and talked to the Belgian officers, and he said, "These people are on here, they're breaking houses, and they're killing people." And the one in charge said, "Don't worry about them. We're watching them. It's a Catholic priest who's leading them." and we weren't quite convinced, but anyway.